What up, kinfolk? It's your boy Screwface Capone in the house. Now, it can't be stressed enough how important console exclusive titles are. Not only do they give consumers an incentive to purchase that title, but they also help give the console, along with the associated brand name, an identity of their own. For instance, you can't think about Nintendo without thinking about franchises such as Mario, Zelda, Animal Crossing, or Pokemon. Likewise, during the 16-bit years, it was games such as Sonic and Streets of Rage that helped give the Sega Genesis an edge. Even with the Xbox brand, you can only imagine where it would be at without Halo Combat Evolved way back in 2001. However, as many Sony and Nintendo fanboys will be glad to remind you, the Xbox One has been lacking console exclusives this past generation. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Halo, I love Gears of War, and I love Forza. And quite frankly, Sunset Overdrive is perhaps one of the most underrated games of the past generation. But frankly, the Xbox One has lacked the equivalent to, say, Sony's Horizon Zero Dawn. Thankfully, this is a problem that Microsoft has recognized and is taking steps to fix. These past few years have seen them acquire several game studios, and they're all hard at work developing new titles. For instance, this past spring saw the release of Bleeding Edge from Ninja Theory. And the company is also hard at work on both Project Mara and Hellblade 2. Likewise, Rare is hard at work on Everwild, and there's a new Battletoads game which is to be released like any frickin' day now. However, I got some ideas of my own for potential Xbox exclusives. So you might want to check them out. I know most of them are based on pure speculation, but then again, most ideas are. And by the way, Phil Spencer, if you're watching this, I'm not looking for a royalty check, but if you want to send along a shout out, then that'll be nice. Anyway, let's get to the top 10 list. Scalebound was an action RPG being developed by Platinum Games. In the game, players would fight alongside a dragon. Unfortunately, this Xbox One exclusive was cancelled and no definitive reason was given. Likewise, Phantom Dust was a remake of the cult classic original Xbox title. However, due to executive meddling, it was indefinitely delayed. However, Microsoft still owns the rights to both games, and there is nothing stopping the company from reviving either of them. In fact, in a recent interview, Platinum Games expressed interest in reviving Scalebound, confirming that Microsoft in fact still owns the IP. Phantom Dust, however, remains a passion project for Phil Spencer. In 2017, a remaster of the game was released for free on both Xbox One and PC. Obviously, both games would have to be rebuilt from the ground up, but if they can do it right, then not only would they have two awesome and unique titles, but they could gain some much needed clout with Japanese audiences. The lack of success of the Xbox brand in Japan has long been a sore point for the system, and a possible collaboration with a Japanese developer for both games would be a great start for Microsoft. As for me, damn it, I want to fight alongside a dragon. I need some more Phantom Dust. Of all the games announced for the Xbox One, Crackdown 3 was one of the games that fans were the most excited about. Unfortunately, it would end up being one of the biggest letdowns when it was actually released. The original Crackdown on Xbox 360 was fantastic, and its sequel wasn't too bad either. Fans would spend years anticipating what the Xbox One powered third game would be like. Crackdown 3 is still fun in its own right, if nothing spectacular. For what it's worth, its inclusion on Game Pass makes it a value. However, the game we ended up with was a mere shell of the game we were promised. The Destructible City and multiplayer ended up being an untextured mess that barely had any content, while the single-player campaign was repetitive at best. A new game on the Xbox Series X could give Microsoft Game Studios another chance to redeem the brand by making Crackdown 3 the game it was supposed to have been. While I don't care for internal specs, the capabilities of the Xbox Series X should make it possible to pull off something extraordinary for a Crackdown game, especially getting the fully destructible city done right. Of course, they should also bring back Terry Crews. Terry Crews is awesome, and he was one of the few good things about Crackdown 3. Now I can already see you giving me the side eye, but sports was and still is an important part of gaming. Hell, the very first video game was a form of tabletop tennis, and Sega's sports line was a key part of the Sega Genesis early days. Not to mention the success and popularity of Madden and FIFA. So Microsoft's last attempt at a sports line was nothing to write home about, but now is a good time to give it another shot. Obviously, NFL football is out of the question, but what about a new NBA basketball game? We all know NBA 2K can use some competition. Better yet, why not NCAA football? We've gone a whole generation without college football, and frankly, I'm tired of playing NCAA 2014 on the Xbox 360. How much of a game changer would it be if NCAA football were revived as an Xbox brand exclusive? Why stop there? They could also revive links to bring in golf, or even create new tennis, boxing, or Major League Baseball games. Let's say outside the box even. Cricket, handball, water polo, Greco-Roman wrestling? Okay, on to the next entry. I don't know if you've noticed, but Rare has been making actual games again. And that's games as opposed to Kinect sports titles. At the least, they're handing development of its properties out to studios who are making games out of them. As I mentioned before, there's a new Battletoads reboot that should be due any day now. In addition to that, in 2015, they released Rare Replay, a compilation of hits spanning from the ZX Spectrum days to more recent Xbox 360 titles. Killer Instinct, which was developed by Double Helix, remains one of the best fighting games of this past generation. Last but not least, Sea of Thieves continues to be one of the biggest hits on Xbox One, despite catching flack over its initial lack of content and live service model. Maybe the company should dive further into its back catalog to help shape Microsoft's future. Obviously, we all want a new Banjo-Kazooie, and it's high time for Killer Instinct 2. But what about a new Perfect Dark? What about a new Conquer game? Maybe a Blast Core sequel or remake with fully 3D environments? Wizards and Warriors revived as a hack and slash roguelike? Or maybe a new Cobra Triangle? Attic Attack? Okay, I'm getting out of hand here, but next entry? Project Spark was a tragically short-lived suite of creation tools for the Xbox One and PC. Sadly, it never took off the ground, partly due to its DLC model. However, if there is one game that should be given a second chance, it's Project Spark. How awesome would it be if the Xbox had its equivalent to Little Big Planet or even Dreams, except this time without the freemium elements that ruined the original Project Spark. Just make it easy to use, add an online functionality, and give players the ability to create games across different genres. If we can get something like that but on Xbox One and Series X, then it could spark, no pun intended, the next generation of would-be developers. Who doesn't love a good crossover? The Xbox could use a good Smash Brothers style crossover game. It wouldn't necessarily have to be a platform fighter either. It could be an RPG, a hero shooter, or maybe even a puzzle game. They could include characters from Halo, Conquer, Killer Instinct, and other franchises owned by Microsoft and its development teams. Sony attempted something similar with PlayStation All-Stars, and Microsoft could come up with something that could build upon that concept very easily. Now, who wouldn't want to see Sayuna, Kilgore, and Marcus Phoenix dunk on each other in a basketball game? Anybody? Okay, on to the next entry. Let's see, PlayStation 4 has Spider-Man, the Nintendo Switch has Ultimate Alliance 3, why not get some of that superhero love for the Xbox? X-Men Legends 3 would be a logical choice. I mean, come on, X-Men on the Xbox. But there are other heroes who deserve their spotlight in the game as well. How about Daredevil and the Defenders? A Runaways RPG? An Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. tactical shooter? It's Doctor Strange? The Punisher? NFL Super Pro? NFL Super Pro? Come on guys, an NFL Super Pro game for the Xbox Sports Network? Okay. Maybe we could look to Marvel's distinguished competition as well. How about a Justice League RPG? Or maybe outside the box with, say, Image or Valiant? What about a game starring Ninjak, Bloodshot, or Exo Man of War? That would be awesome. Maybe we can finally get a Spawn game done right. Either way, a superhero title would be a great addition to the Xbox lineup. Mistwalker was a Japanese studio founded by Hironobu Sakaguchi, who you might remember from a little-known game called Final Fantasy. Microsoft provided financial backing for the studio, and they created the Xbox 360 games Blue Dragon and Lost Odyssey. They would go on to create a series of Nintendo DS games, including Blue Dragon sequels and spin-offs, as well as The Last Story, one of the 3 Project Rainfall games for the Wii. The company also created the short-lived mobile RPG, Terra Battle. It's clear that Microsoft wants to increase its user base in Japan, so why not reforge their relationship with Mistwalker? Players love traditional Japanese-style RPGs, and one of those powered by the Xbox Series X will be a surefire hit for Microsoft. If you go back to the original Xbox, there were tons of exclusive titles that you didn't see anywhere else. Even if they were not classics, they had some cool concepts and would be awesome to see them get a second chance on the Xbox Series X. The first one that comes to mind is Crimson Skies. This arcade-style flight game dominated Xbox Live before Halo 2 hit the scene, and its simple controls, fun story mode, and fun multiplayer made it a hit on Xbox. It's one of the few original Xbox titles backwardly compatible on both Xbox 360 and Xbox One, so a sequel will be a no-brainer. Another game is Brute Force, a 4-player sci-fi co-op shooter. Although it managed to score barely above average reviews, the potential is there for the game to be resurrected as a sci-fi Left 4 Dead style game. Also, there's Tao Feng Fist of the Lotus, which was created by John Tobias, one of the heads behind Mortal Kombat. Again, while it didn't exactly set the world on fire, it did feature realistic injuries such as cuts, bruises, and broken bones that would actually affect the gameplay. If Killer Instinct can see a second life on Xbox One, why not this? There's also Blinks the Time Sweeper, which was Microsoft's attempt to create a Mario-style mascot. While it failed, the time control mechanic was pretty cool, and it even spawned a sequel. On the third-party front, the Smilebit developed and Sega published Gun Valkyrie was a game with a cool future steampunk atmosphere. Its bizarre visuals and plot just begged for a follow-up that we unfortunately never got. Likewise, the 2 Otogi games, Myth of Demons and Immortal Warriors, which were developed by From Software and also published by Sega, utilized Japanese folklore to create a storyline and setting that was unlike anything seen at the time. The game's visuals were pretty trippy as well. If Microsoft could work out a deal with Sega to create a sequel to one of these 3 games, they could very well have a cool Japanese-style title for Xbox gamers. At the very least, Myth of Demons could be resurrected as a Souls-like game, and we all love those. Regardless of whether they were from America, Japan, or otherwise, the original Xbox held tons of cool concepts and experiences, and many of them should be revisited. This one is pretty much a given, and Microsoft Game Studios is no doubt working on it as we speak. However, when I say new intellectual property, I mean a game comparable to a Horizon Zero Dawn, Mario Odyssey, or God of War. Basically, I want to see the next Halo, or the next Gears of War, or even the next Blinks the Time Sweeper. While Bleeding Edge is nice, Grounded looks interesting, and Everwild looks pretty cool, Microsoft is going to need to put out something that will blow gamers' minds if they want to be successful this time around. They got the tech, now let's see the games. There you have it, kinfolk. That's 10 ideas that Microsoft can utilize for their next gaming hit. Hopefully Microsoft has been listening, and we'll be getting that new Azure sequel that I've been dreaming about. All kidding aside, we'll probably be seeing some cool stuff this coming Thursday during their online presentation, and they really need to hit out the park this time too. Enough of that, however. Do you got any ideas of your own? Let me know below in the comments. Also, if you like what you just saw, click the thumbs up icon. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe link. along with that little bell icon, then you'll be the first to know when I produce new content. If you want to see my game streams, make sure you follow me on both Twitter and Twitch at ScrewfaceCapone. Anyway, that's all for now. Have a great rest of your day, and peace 51,000 G.